Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to achieve something, the further away it seems to get? Imagine trying to fall asleep at night. You toss and turn in bed, focusing on closing your eyes, but the more you force it, the more awake you feel. Or that situation you deeply desire, whether it's winning someone over, closing a deal, or simply finding peace of mind, the harder you chase it, the more it slips away. This happens more often than you think, and the truth is harsh. Effort doesn't always bring results. There's a subtle, almost invisible law governing this phenomenon, called the law of reverse effort. It shows that, paradoxically, the more we try to control, dominate, or force a situation, the further we get from what we truly want. And when we stop trying desperately, suddenly, everything flows. Imagine a cat that runs away every time you try to pet it. You reach out, it backs off. Try again, it runs. But when you finally stop caring, it comes to you on its own, curling up on your lap as if it had been waiting patiently. The same principle applies to skills, relationships, and even your own well-being. Obsessive effort is often counterproductive, and the secret lies in knowing when to act and when to let go. If you've ever felt frustrated trying something with all your might, experienced anxiety, or seen opportunities slip away because you insisted too much, this is the video that will change the way you see effort and results. Here, you'll discover how to achieve goals, develop skills, and even overcome fears without wearing yourself out along the way, using science and philosophy to explain why stopping the struggle can be more powerful than you imagine. In the next few minutes, we'll explore practical, everyday examples, real situations we all face, and strategies that allow you to align action and relaxation intelligently. You'll learn how to turn frustration into productivity and anxiety into mental clarity. Get ready, because what you're about to learn can become the key to your performance and your achievements. And the best part, it's not about working harder, but learning to work differently, and letting the flow of things happen naturally. If you want to finally stop fighting the impossible and start achieving with ease, this is your starting point. To begin understanding why effort doesn't always lead to the results we want, we need to look at the phenomenon more broadly. The law of reverse effort, also known as the law of return or the backwards law, has been explored by philosophers and psychologists throughout history, including Aldous Huxley and Viktor Frankl. They noticed that trying too hard creates resistance, anxiety, and even unconscious self-sabotage. The more force we put into something, the harder it becomes. Imagine an insomniac trying to sleep. They count sheep, breathe deeply, close their eyes with all their might, and yet remain awake. Conscious effort blocks the natural relaxation needed for sleep. But when they stop forcing it, accept that they are awake, and let their mind rest, sleep comes on its own. This simple example illustrates the paradox. What we desire most often comes when we stop striving directly for it. This principle doesn't just apply to sleep. Think about relationships. Attraction is a natural phenomenon. It cannot be forced. The more someone chases, the farther the other seems to retreat. Constant presence and desperation increase resistance, while patience, confidence, and lightness create closeness. The same applies to the professional environment. The more you try to control every detail, the more stressful and unproductive the work becomes. When you delegate, trust the process, and act strategically, results emerge more smoothly. Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, explored this through a technique called paradoxical intention. He observed that when people try to avoid something, such as stuttering, they often end up stuttering more. The same applies to pleasure or success. Obsessive fixation on a result creates anticipatory anxiety, which sabotages the action itself. Frankl suggested that by reversing the intention, wishing for what was previously feared or trying to detach from the outcome, we can release mental pressure and allow the skill or result to emerge naturally. Another example is learning a complex skill, like driving a car or playing the piano. At first, every movement feels forced and requires full attention. Anxiety and excessive focus make the process slow and frustrating. But with practice and relaxation, movements become automatic, almost instinctive. This is the so-called flow state, studied by Taoists and modern psychology. A state in which action flows naturally, without conscious effort, and performance reaches its peak. The key here is to understand the difference between useful conscious effort and counterproductive obsessive effort. Training, studying, planning, and taking action are necessary efforts. Forcing results, trying to control everything, or fighting the natural process are efforts that block the goal itself. The law of reverse effort teaches us that to truly achieve, we must combine action with relaxation, intervention with patience, and intelligence with detachment. This first stage shows that the problem isn't your ability or dedication, but how you relate to effort. Understanding this is fundamental to moving forward, because only after internalizing this paradox can we apply strategies that turn frustration into results, anxiety into clarity, and brute force into optimized performance. Now that we understand the theoretical foundation of the law of reverse effort, it's time to see how it manifests in practice and how we can use this knowledge to our advantage. The key point here is realizing that excessive conscious effort, anxiety, and fixation on results often push us away from our goals. But when we balance action with relaxation, results emerge in a surprisingly natural way. Let's start with a simple example: relationships. How many times have you felt attracted to someone, and the more you tried to get close, the further they seemed to retreat? This phenomenon is the classic manifestation of the effort paradox. Instead of attracting, too much force creates resistance. A study published in Social Psychology shows that self-confidence and the absence of pursuit generate more attraction than insistence or obsessive attachment. In practical terms, if you want to win someone over, the secret isn't to push or try desperately, but to act naturally, value your own life, and let attraction happen spontaneously. The same principle applies to professional performance. Imagine a salesperson desperately trying to close a deal. The harder they push, the more hesitation they notice on the other side. But when they apply knowledge, understand timing, listen actively, and present the solution at the right moment, the result tends to be far more effective. This balance is what philosopher Aldous Huxley described as combining relaxation with activity, acting with attention, but without suffocating the process with anxiety or excessive control. Another powerful example is athletic performance. Top athletes report that peak performance occurs in a state of flow, where each movement feels automatic and natural. Bill Russell, the legendary basketball player, described this state as playing in slow motion, intuitively sensing where every pass and shot would happen. Any conscious attempt to control movement disrupts this state and reduces performance. Therefore, skill emerges best when effort is balanced with detachment and full presence. Now let's look at an example closer to everyday life: sleep and rest. Waking up tired and trying to force sleep creates a cycle of frustration. Counting sheep, meditating, or breathing deeply with anxiety to force sleep is exactly what prevents the relaxation needed. But if you accept the current state, relax, and let your mind follow its natural rhythm, sleep comes effortlessly. This is the paradoxical effect. By trying less, we achieve more. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl offers a practical tool here called paradoxical intention. It consists of reversing the desire or resistance to an outcome. For example, if someone fears stuttering during a presentation, instead of trying not to stutter, they can imagine the possibility of stuttering naturally. This shift in perspective reduces anxiety, releases potential, and often the actual outcome turns out better than if obsessive effort had been applied. This technique shows that the secret lies not in brute force, but in applied emotional intelligence. Another area where the law of reverse effort appears is creativity. Writers, musicians, and artists often experience blocks when they try to force inspiration. Charles Bukowski, for example, said that to write, one must not try, wait, observe, and act when the idea comes. If you push too hard to create something perfect, internal pressure blocks the natural flow of ideas. But when you allow yourself to observe and act only when the moment is right, creation happens fluidly and surprisingly. Learning complex skills also perfectly illustrates this paradox. When learning to drive, for example, beginners focus on every pedal, mirror, and brake. Anxiety and tension make the process almost impossible. With practice, the brain integrates these movements, and driving becomes automatic, without the need for intense conscious effort. This internalization process shows that optimal performance combines conscious practice with space for the automatic to emerge. In the business world, the same logic applies. Entrepreneurs who try to control every detail, obsessively monitor every outcome, and avoid any mistakes often exhaust themselves and achieve inferior results. On the other hand, those who understand timing, establish processes, learn from mistakes, and act at the right moment achieve more consistent and surprising results. Here, strategic action balanced with detachment is key. In summary, the essence of the law of reverse effort boils down to a few practical principles. Avoid obsessive fixation on results. The harder you push, the more resistance you encounter. Combine practice with relaxation. Skill emerges when effort and naturalness are balanced. Use paradoxical intention. Reversing focus or accepting the opposite of what you fear reduces anxiety and increases performance. Create space for the automatic to emerge. In sports, creativity, or complex skills, detachment allows hidden potential to surface. When you start applying these principles in daily life, you notice subtle but powerful changes. Relationships flow more naturally, important decisions become clearer, productivity increases without excessive effort, and creativity arises more consistently. Stress decreases because you learn to balance action and detachment, understanding that not everything needs to be controlled. This understanding transforms the way you handle challenges, making each goal more attainable and every moment lighter. By understanding and applying the law of reverse effort, you realize that life stops being a constant battle against invisible obstacles. Small frustrations no longer dominate your day, and you begin to see clearly where it's worth investing energy and where it's better to step back. This perspective expands your awareness. Important decisions, relationships, and professional projects start to fall into place more naturally, almost as if the universe itself were conspiring in your favor. Imagine a future where you can handle challenges without wearing yourself out, where fear and anxiety give way to calm confidence. When you stop forcing results, paradoxically, results come more easily. What once seemed distant or difficult becomes accessible because you've learned the art of balancing effort and detachment. Now think, how many times have you tried to control situations, people, or emotions, only to feel that the harder you struggled, the less progress you made? By applying this approach, you begin to notice invisible patterns, act strategically, and understand when to take action and when to let things unfold naturally. This is the point where conscious effort meets the flow of the universe, creating a balance between action and surrender. This transformation isn't just theoretical, it shows up in daily life. You start sleeping better without forcing it, connecting with people without anxiety or pressure, and producing more creatively without fighting blocks. Small victories begin to arise naturally, and the sense of accomplishment becomes constant, without the emotional drain of before. The secret lies in observing, understanding, and waiting. As the wise proverb says, "The water that flows does not strive, yet it reaches its destination." By applying the law of reverse effort, you learn to become like that water, adaptable, patient, and efficient. And the amazing part is, the less you try to control, the more you achieve what you desire. Now it's your turn to experience this change. Where have you been insisting so much that results seem to slip away? Which situations could resolve with less effort and more presence? It's in this balance, between action and surrender, that true potential is revealed. Have you begun to notice that life works better when you learn to let go a little? By internalizing this perspective, you not only improve your performance and well-being, but also begin to see opportunities that once seemed invisible. Calm confidence, the ability to act at the right moment, and the skill of allowing the natural flow of things to occur are powerful tools that transform any aspect of life. The next step is simple: observe, pause, and allow. Free yourself from obsession with control and act only when truly necessary. You'll see that, paradoxically, intelligent effort combined with conscious relaxation produces results that sheer force could never achieve. In the end, it all comes down to one question: will you keep trying to force results, or are you ready to learn the art of letting things happen? If you want to continue evolving, discover how your mind really works, and apply this to achieve extraordinary results, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Every video here on the channel is made to expand your awareness and lead you to real results. See you in the next video, here on Stoic Mentoring.